The security alarms at the Astrobiology Research Center pierced the quiet Montana night, their shrill warning echoing across the facility's grounds. Dr. Zara Patel dropped her tablet and sprinted toward the source of the disturbance, her heart pounding against her ribs. As the facility's lead xenobiologist, she knew every inch of the complex, but nothing had prepared her for what she was about to discover. The motion sensors had triggered near the quantum physics wing, a section of the facility that housed some of Earth's most advanced scientific equipment. Zara's security clearance granted her access to every area, though she rarely ventured outside her own department. Tonight was different. The energy readings on her handheld scanner were unlike anything she'd ever seen. She rounded the corner of the building and skidded to a stop. There, bathed in the pale moonlight, lay a figure that defied everything she thought she knew about extraterrestrial life. The being was humanoid but clearly not human. Its skin shimmered with an otherworldly iridescence, like mother-of-pearl caught in sunlight. What appeared to be hair flowed around its head in tendrils that moved of their own accord, responding to some unseen current. "Hello?" Zara called out softly, her scientific mind warring with her instinct to help what was clearly an injured being. The figure stirred, revealing eyes that seemed to hold galaxies within them. They fixed on Zara with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Please," the being whispered, its voice carrying a musical quality that made Zara's skin tingle. "They must not find me." Zara glanced at her communicator. Protocol dictated that she alert facility security immediately. This was, after all, exactly the kind of first contact scenario they had trained for. But something in those eyes, in that plea, made her hesitate. "I'm Dr. Zara Patel," she said, crouching down beside the figure. "You're injured. Let me help you." The being attempted to move and winced. "I am Thea," she said, her voice growing stronger. "My people, they want to use me. My abilities. I cannot let them." Zara noticed the strange markings on Thea's skin, patterns that seemed to shift and change like living circuitry. "What abilities?" she asked, helping Thea into a sitting position. "I can interface with energy itself. Manipulate it. They want to weaponize this gift." Thea's voice broke. "They would use it to dominate other worlds." The sound of approaching footsteps made them both freeze. Zara made a split-second decision that would change her life forever. "Can you stand?" she whispered urgently. Thea nodded weakly. Zara helped her up, supporting most of her weight. "My private lab is nearby. We can hide you there until we figure something out." As they made their way through the shadows, Zara's mind raced. She was breaking every protocol, risking her career, possibly even Earth's security. But something told her this was right. The way Thea moved, spoke, and especially those eyes, there was an intelligence and humanity there that transcended species. They reached Zara's lab just as another security team passed nearby. Zara quickly used her keycard to gain access, helping Thea inside. The lab was her sanctuary, filled with specimens and equipment for studying potential extraterrestrial life. Never had she imagined she'd be hiding an actual alien within its walls. "Rest here," Zara said, helping Thea onto a medical examination bed. "I need to check your injuries." As she worked, Zara couldn't help but marvel at Thea's biology. Her wounds seemed to be healing themselves, the damaged tissue knitting back together with tiny sparks of energy. "Remarkable," she breathed. "Your fascination," Thea observed, watching Zara's face. "It is not fear or desire for power. It is pure curiosity." "That's why I became a scientist," Zara replied, applying a regenerative bandage to a particularly deep gash. "To understand, not to control." Thea's expression softened. "My people once valued such things. Before the military caste took control. Before they began seeing everything as a potential weapon." The facility's alarms finally fell silent, but Zara knew this was just the beginning. Soon, questions would be asked. Searches would be conducted. She needed a plan. You said they're looking for you, Zara said, finishing her treatment. How close are they? They will have tracked my ship's energy signature, Thea replied, her expression darkening. Days, perhaps hours. I did not mean to involve your world in my conflict. Zara found herself smiling despite the gravity of the situation. Well, you chose the right person to find you. I've spent my career preparing for extraterrestrial contact. Though I admit, I expected it to be more official and less clandestine. A small smile touched Thea's lips, and Zara felt her heart skip a beat. There was something so profound about seeing such a human expression on an alien face. Your kindness, Thea said softly, it reminds me of what my people once were. The moment was interrupted by Zara's computer chiming. Security protocols were being initiated across the facility. Soon, they would begin a systematic search of every lab. We need to move, Zara said, gathering supplies. I have a cabin in the mountains. It's isolated, off the grid. We can hide there while we figure out our next steps. Thea stood, her movements more fluid now that her wounds were healing. Why are you risking so much to help me? Zara paused, considering the question. Because sometimes doing the right thing means breaking the rules. And because I have a feeling you're going to change everything we think we know about life in the universe. As they prepared to make their escape, Zara caught her reflection in one of the lab's monitors. The woman staring back at her looked different somehow, more alive, more purposeful. She had spent her career searching the stars for signs of intelligent life, and now that life had found her instead. What she didn't know yet was that this night would mark the beginning of a journey that would not only challenge everything she believed about the universe but would also ignite a chain of events that would reshape the relationship between Earth and the stars forever. Dawn painted the Montana mountains in shades of gold and purple as Zara's electric vehicle wound its way up the narrow forest road. Beside her, Thea sat perfectly still, her otherworldly eyes fixed on the horizon. They had managed to slip away from the facility during the chaos of the security sweep, but Zara knew it was only a matter of time before her absence was noticed. Your world has such vibrant colors, Thea observed, her voice filled with wonder. On my homeworld, centuries of industrial development have left our skies perpetually gray. Zara glanced at her passenger, noting how the morning light made Thea's iridescent skin shimmer like diamonds on water. Your people's technology must be incredibly advanced to achieve interstellar travel. Yet you seem fascinated by our primitive world. Advanced? Thea's expression darkened. Perhaps in some ways. But we have lost something far more precious than technological progress. We have lost our capacity for wonder. The cabin came into view, a sturdy structure of wood and stone nestled against the mountainside. Solar panels covered the south-facing roof, and a small greenhouse stood nearby. Zara had always valued her privacy, but now she was grateful for her foresight in creating this isolated retreat. As they entered the cabin, Zara's satellite phone buzzed. The caller ID showed Director Russell. Her heart raced as she declined the call. Your superiors? Thea asked, watching Zara's reaction. Yes. I'll have to come up with some explanation for my absence, but right now we need to focus on keeping you hidden. Zara moved through the cabin, activating its security systems. The mountains contain deposits of rare earth minerals that should help mask any unusual energy signatures. Thea moved to the cabin's large window, her tendrils of hair flowing with increased agitation. There is something else you should know, Zara. My pursuers, they are not just military. They are the architects. The architects? They are the ruling caste of my world, beings who have modified themselves so extensively with technology that they are barely recognizable as living creatures. They see my ability to manipulate pure energy as the key to their ultimate evolution. Thea's hands trembled as she spoke. They would remake all sentient life in their image. Zara felt a chill run down her spine. And they're coming here? To Earth? Yes. And they will not stop until they find me. Thea turned to face Zara, her eyes swirling with galaxies of concern. Perhaps I should surrender myself. Your world should not suffer for my choices. No. Zara's response was immediate and fierce. If these architects are as dangerous as you say, Earth needs to know about them. We need to prepare. A sudden beeping from Zara's security system interrupted them. Multiple vehicles approaching, Zara announced, checking the monitors. Government plates. Through the cameras, they watched 3 black SUVs wind their way up the mountain road. Zara recognized one of the passengers, Agent James Walsh from the National Security Division. They're tracking my phone, Zara realized. We need to move. There's a network of caves behind the cabin. We can dash. She stopped as Thea placed a hand on her arm. The touch sent a tingling sensation through Zara's entire body, like a gentle electric current. You have already risked too much for me, Thea said softly. I cannot ask you to become a fugitive. You're not asking. I'm choosing. Zara met Thea's gaze steadily. What you represent, not just your abilities, but the warning you bring, it's too important. And I'm not letting them turn you into a lab specimen or a weapon. The vehicles were getting closer. Thea's expression shifted, becoming more determined. Then perhaps it is time I show you what I can really do. She moved to the center of the room, and the air around her began to shimmer. Do you trust me? Zara watched in amazement as patches of light seemed to bend around Thea's form. Yes, she whispered. Then hold on to me. Zara stepped forward, wrapping her arms around Thea's waist. The alien skin was warm, vibrating with energy. The air crackled around them, and Zara's vision filled with dancing lights. Close your eyes, Thea whispered. The world seemed to shift, reality bending like light through a prism. Zara felt weightless, formless, as if her consciousness was streaming through pure energy. When the sensation passed, she opened her eyes to find they were no longer in the cabin, but deep within one of the mountain caves. How? Zara gasped, steadying herself against the cave wall. Energy transference, Thea explained, though she seemed drained by the effort. All matter is energy in different forms. I can redirect it, briefly. Above them, they heard the sound of vehicles arriving at the cabin. Through the rock, Zara could barely make out voices and footsteps. That was incredible, Zara said, her scientific mind already racing with the implications. The applications for such technology are precisely why the architects must never acquire it, Thea finished. In their hands, it would become a means of forcibly transforming entire populations. Zara nodded, understanding now the full scope of what they were dealing with. We need to contact someone who can help us. Someone with resources but outside the official channels. She thought for a moment. I know someone, an old friend who runs a private space technology company. He's brilliant, wealthy, and distrustful enough of government oversight to hear us out. Can he be trusted? About as much as any billionaire can be, Zara said with a slight smile. But he owes me a favor, and he's our best chance at mounting any kind of defense against your pursuers. They heard voices echoing through the cave system. The search was expanding. We should keep moving, Thea said, but Zara caught her arm. First, tell me the truth. How long do we really have before the architects arrive? Thea's expression was grim. 3 days. Perhaps 4. Their ships are already in the outer solar system. Zara took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders. Then we better make them count. The private hangar at the edge of Silicon Valley hummed with activity as Richard Vale's engineers prepared his latest spacecraft prototype. Zara watched through tinted windows as Thea examined the vessel, her movements carrying an otherworldly grace that drew curious glances from the workers. "Your friend certainly possesses impressive resources," Thea observed, her fingers trailing along the spacecraft's gleaming hull. Ripples of energy followed her touch, invisible to everyone except Zara, who had grown attuned to Thea's unique energy signature over the past 2 days. "Vale has his faults," Zara replied, "but lack of ambition isn't one of them." She watched as Richard approached them, his expensive suit incongruous in the industrial setting. "Ladies," he said, running a hand through his silver-streaked hair, "I've cleared the facility. Whatever you need to show me, now's the time." Zara nodded to Thea, who closed her eyes in concentration. The air around her began to shimmer, and her skin took on its full iridescent glow. Richard stumbled backward, his usual composure shattered. "My God," he whispered. "When you said you had proof of extraterrestrial life, I thought." He trailed off as Thea demonstrated her energy manipulation, forming complex patterns of light between her hands. "We need your help, Richard," Zara said. "There are others coming, dangerous others. They'll be here within days." Before Richard could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. Security screens flashed red as multiple perimeter breaches were detected simultaneously. "They're here," Thea gasped, her eyes wide with terror. "The architects. They've found us." Through the hangar's windows, they watched as 3 crystalline shapes descended from the sky, each one a perfect geometric form that seemed to defy physics. They were beautiful in their alienness, but Zara could feel the menace radiating from them. "Everyone out!" Richard shouted to his remaining staff. "Emergency evacuation protocol." The shapes landed, and from them emerged figures that made Zara's blood run cold. They were vaguely humanoid, but their bodies were a seamless fusion of crystalline technology and organic matter. Their movements were precise, mechanical, yet undeniably alive. "Thea of the Luminar," one of them spoke, its voice resonating on multiple frequencies simultaneously. "Your departure from the enhancement program was most disappointing." "I will not be your weapon, Architect Vex," Thea replied, her voice steady despite her fear. "I will not help you destroy what makes us living beings." The lead architect's crystalline face shifted, forming what might have been a smile. "Such primitive concepts. Life, death, individuality, all temporary states that we will transcend. Your ability to manipulate quantum energy fields will help us achieve perfect unity across all species." "Perfect uniformity, you mean," Zara interjected, stepping forward. "You want to strip away everything that makes different species unique." The architect turned its attention to her, and Zara felt as though her very atoms were being analyzed. A human scientist. How appropriate that Thea would seek refuge with a species so consumed by futile curiosity. "Leave them out of this," Thea demanded. "This is not their world's conflict." "All worlds are part of the grand design," Architect Vex responded. "Your Earth will be enhanced, with or without your cooperation. The process has already begun." As if on cue, the crystalline ships pulsed with energy. Across the facility, electronic devices sparked and transformed, their components rearranging into new, alien configurations. "Richard," Zara called out, "the prototype. We need to go now." Vale was already at the spacecraft's controls, initiating the launch sequence. "It's untested," he warned. "We have no idea if it'll hold together at high altitudes." "Better that than becoming their test subjects," Zara replied, pulling Thea toward the vessel. The architects moved with liquid grace, but Thea was faster. She raised her hands, and waves of pure energy erupted between them and their pursuers. The air itself seemed to crystallize, forming a temporary barrier. "I cannot hold them long," Thea gasped, the effort clearly straining her. They rushed into the spacecraft as the prototype's engines roared to life. Through the viewport, Zara watched in horror as the architects began to merge with their ships, the crystalline structures flowing around them like water. They're transforming, Thea explained, strapping herself in. The ships are not vessels, they're extensions of the architects themselves. The prototype lifted off just as Thea's barrier shattered. Energy weapons lanced out from the crystalline ships, but Richard's piloting skills proved as impressive as his ego. They weaved through the attacks, climbing rapidly into the upper atmosphere. "We need a destination," Richard called from the pilot's seat. "I've got maybe 20 minutes of fuel for powered flight." Zara looked at Thea, who was staring at the tactical display with intense concentration. "There," she said, pointing to a location in the South Pacific. "There's a dormant volcanic chain with unique magnetic properties. It might help mask our energy signature." As they flew, Zara noticed something strange about the attacks following them. "They're not trying to destroy us," she realized. "They're hurting us." Thea nodded grimly. "They want me alive. And now they want you too, Zara. Your understanding of xenobiology, combined with my abilities, they believe we could accelerate their enhancement program across multiple species." "Well, they can't have either of you," Richard declared, pushing the prototype to its limits. "I've got a backup plan, but you're not going to like it." The crystalline ships were closing in, their forms shifting and evolving as they pursued. Whatever Richard's plan was, they needed it soon. "Remember that classified government project I lost the contract for?" Richard asked, inputting a complex sequence into the navigation system. "The one about quantum teleportation?" Zara's eyes widened. "You didn't." "Let's just say I made some improvements to their design." "Hang on." The prototype's cabin filled with a familiar tingling sensation, similar to what Zara had felt when Thea transported them in the mountains. But this was different, bigger, more volatile. "Richard," Zara shouted over the building energy, "quantum teleportation hasn't been tested on living subjects." "No time like the present," he replied with a grin that bordered on maniacal. "Thea, if you've got any tricks that might help, now's the time." As the architect's ships moved to intercept them, Thea closed her eyes and placed her hands on the prototype's console. Energy coursed through the vessel's systems, merging with Richard's experimental technology. The last thing Zara saw before reality turned inside out was the look of surprise on the crystalline faces of their pursuers. Then everything, space, time, and consciousness itself, dissolved into pure light. Consciousness returned to Zara like waves lapping at a shore. She opened her eyes to find herself still in the prototype's cabin, but something was different. The quality of light, the feel of the air, everything seemed slightly off. "We're underwater," Richard announced from the pilot's seat, his voice tight with concentration. "About 200 meters down, inside what appears to be an ancient volcanic tunnel system." Zara turned to check on Thea and gasped. The alien woman's usual iridescent glow had intensified, her skin now emanating pulses of light that synchronized with the prototype's systems. "Thea?" Zara reached out, touching her arm gently. "Are you all right?" Thea's eyes fluttered open, revealing swirling patterns of energy that gradually settled back into their usual galaxy-like appearance. "The quantum leap. I had to guide it, merge with it. Your friend's technology is remarkable, but unstable. Without an energy consciousness to direct it, we could have materialized inside solid rock. Or been scattered across quantum space," Richard added cheerfully. "But hey, we made it. And I've got great news and terrible news. Which would you like first?" "Terrible," Zara and Thea said simultaneously. "The quantum drive is fried. We're not doing that again." Richard pulled up a holographic display showing the prototype status. "The good news is that we're exactly where we wanted to be, the South Pacific volcanic chain. Bad news part 2, we've got company up there." The display showed multiple crystalline ships hovering above the ocean's surface, their forms now even more evolved after interfacing with Earth technology. "They're adapting," Thea said grimly. Every piece of technology they encounter makes them stronger. Soon they'll be able to detect us, even through the volcanic minerals. Zara studied the readouts, her scientific mind racing. These tunnels, they're not natural, are they? Thea shook her head. No. They were created by my people, thousands of years ago, before the architects rose to power. We had outposts on many worlds, including Earth. This was one of them. That's why you chose this location, Richard realized. You knew there would be something here. I hoped, Thea corrected. The outposts were abandoned and the architects began their crusade of enhancement. But if anything remains. A sudden tremor shook the prototype. On the displays, they watched as massive sections of the seafloor began to shift and transform. Incredible, Zara breathed. The volcanic rock was revealing itself to be an ancient structure, responding to Thea's presence. Geometric patterns, similar to but distinctly different from the architect's technology, began to glow with internal light. The Luminar Archive, Thea whispered, her voice filled with wonder. It still exists. Quick, dock with that portal. Richard guided the prototype toward an opening that had appeared in the structure's side. As they connected, their cabin was flooded with holographic displays showing information in a script Zara had never seen before. This is why they really want you, isn't it? Zara asked, watching as Thea interfaced with the ancient systems. Not just your abilities, but your connection to this technology. The architects rose from within our own society, Thea explained, her hands dancing through the holographic data. They were scientists who believed they could perfect life itself through technological integration. When others opposed them, they began their campaign of forced enhancement. But they could never fully interface with the original Luminar technology. It requires an organic connection, a living consciousness. So what exactly are we looking at here? Richard asked. A weapon? Zara suggested. No, Thea replied firmly. Something far more powerful. This archive contains the complete biological and technological history of my people, including the one thing the architects fear most, the means to reverse their transformations. Another tremor shook the structure. Above them, the crystalline ships had begun firing energy beams into the ocean, systematically searching for them. They're getting closer, Richard warned. There's more, Thea said, her expression troubled as she read through the data. The architects, they're dying. Their transformations are becoming unstable. That's why they're so desperate to find new ways to evolve. They plan to use Earth's vast biological diversity as a template for their next phase of enhancement. They want to experiment on our entire planet? Zara felt sick at the thought. Not just experiment. Transform. They would convert Earth's biosphere into a massive organic computer, processing power for their next evolution. Humanity would be absorbed, becoming nodes in their network. The structure shuddered again, more violently this time. Warning signals flashed across their displays. They've found us, Richard announced. And, oh, this is interesting. We've got new contacts appearing in orbit. Lots of them. The tactical display showed dozens of ships emerging from what appeared to be fold space portals. These vessels were organic in design, flowing and natural compared to the crystalline geometries of the architects. The resistance, Thea breathed. They got my message. But how? I think I can answer that, Richard said, grinning. When we made that quantum jump, the energy signature must have been visible across half the galaxy. Like sending up a flare. Then we don't have much time, Thea said, her hands moving faster through the holographic controls. The archive contains templates for organic technology that could protect Earth from the architect's influence. But implementing it will require a global network, and will need humanity's help. Zara watched as battles began erupting above them, organic ships engaging the crystalline vessels in spectacular displays of energy and matter manipulation. I think, she said slowly, it's time to let the world know what's really happening. Richard, how quickly can you contact every major scientific institution and government agency? Already on it, he replied, typing rapidly. Being a tech billionaire has its perks. I can have a global broadcast ready in minutes. Good, Thea said, not looking up from her work. Because we're about to bring a galactic war to Earth's doorstep, and humanity deserves to know why. The archives chambers rumbled as more architect ships discovered their location. But as Zara watched Thea work, seeing the determination in her otherworldly eyes, she felt something she hadn't expected: hope. The architects thought they could perfect life by removing what makes it unique, Thea said, finally turning to face them. Instead, they're about to learn why diversity, in all its chaotic, unpredictable glory, is the true path to evolution. Above them, the ocean began to boil as the battle for Earth's future erupted in earnest. The world watched in stunned silence as Richard Vale's emergency broadcast revealed the truth about humanity's place in the cosmos. Satellite feeds showed organic and crystalline ships battling in Earth's orbit, their conflict painting the sky with impossible colors and energies. In the ancient Luminar archive deep beneath the Pacific, Zara worked frantically alongside Thea, helping to adapt the alien technology for Earth's biosphere. Richard coordinated with military and scientific organizations worldwide, directing them to key locations where the protective network would need to be established. The architects are pushing through the resistance lines, Richard announced, monitoring the tactical displays. They're concentrating their forces directly above us. They know what we're planning, Thea said, her hands dancing through holographic controls. The organic technology from the archive wouldn't just protect Earth, it would create a cascade effect, reverting all enhanced beings within range to their original organic forms. Zara looked up from her work integrating human genetic sequences into the Luminar templates. You never told me, if this works, what happens to you? Thea paused, her iridescent skin pulsing with emotion. I don't know. My abilities might fade. But it's worth the risk. The chamber shuddered as energy beams from architect ships began cutting through the ocean above them. The water itself seemed to crystallize, forming geometric patterns that spread like frost. They're trying to transform the ocean, Richard warned. Converting it into a computational medium. If they succeed, they'll have enough processing power to override any defense we create. How much longer do you need? Zara asked Thea. Minutes. But. Thea hesitated. The network needs a catalyst, a concentrated burst of quantum energy to activate globally. The prototype's quantum drive, Richard suggested. No, Thea shook her head. It would need to be organic. A living consciousness to guide the energy. Zara met Thea's eyes and understood. You're going to channel it yourself. It's the only way. But Zara. Thea reached out, taking her hand. I'll need your help. Your understanding of Earth's biology, combined with my connection to Luminar technology, together we might be able to make this work. Above them, the crystalline patterns in the ocean grew more complex. The archive's ancient walls groaned under the increasing pressure as the architect's influence spread. Whatever you're going to do, Richard called out, do it fast. The resistance ships are falling back, and our depth pressure is reaching critical levels. Zara squeezed Thea's hand. Tell me what you need. Link with me, Thea said. Through the archive systems. Your knowledge of Earth's biosphere will help me target the transformation correctly. But Zara. Her voice softened. It's dangerous. Our consciousness will be exposed to raw quantum energy. Story of my life lately, Zara smiled. Ever since I found you in my lab. They connected themselves to the archive's interface terminals. As their minds merged with the ancient systems, Zara gasped at the sensation. It was like seeing the world through 1,000 different perspectives simultaneously, every living thing on Earth becoming part of a vast, interconnected web. Through their shared consciousness, she felt Thea's presence, brilliant and beautiful. Ready? Thea's thoughts whispered through her mind. Ready, Zara responded. Together, they began channeling energy through the archive systems. Zara guided the transformation templates, ensuring they would enhance rather than override Earth's natural biological processes. Thea directed the quantum fields, weaving them into existing organic patterns across the planet. Above them, the architects launched their final assault. The ocean had become almost entirely crystalline, their influence reaching toward the archive like grasping fingers of geometric frost. Now, Thea's consciousness surged with power, drawing on her deepest reserves. Zara felt the energy flow through them both, a torrent of pure creation that burned like starfire in their shared mind. The archive erupted with light that spread outward in a rapidly expanding sphere. Where it touched the crystalline patterns in the ocean, they dissolved back into natural water. The wave continued upward, breaking through the surface and expanding into the atmosphere. Through the tactical displays, they watched as the energy wave reached the battling ships. The architect vessels, caught in the transformation field, began to change. Their perfect geometric forms softened, organic patterns emerging from within the crystal. Look, Thea's thoughts whispered. They're remembering. The transformed ships hung in space, their new organic forms pulsing with familiar iridescent light. Inside them, the architects were changing too, returning to their original luminar forms. As the wave spread globally, Richard's communications lit up with reports from around the world. The transformation was taking hold, but not in the way anyone had expected. Instead of overriding Earth's technology, it was merging with it, creating hybrid systems that were both organic and mechanical, yet naturally evolved rather than forcibly enhanced. In orbit, the former architect ships were broadcasting on all frequencies. Voices, filled with wonder and confusion, spoke in the musical tones of the luminar language. They were remembering who they had been before their obsession with perfection had driven them to transform themselves. The energy wave finally dissipated, and Zara felt herself being gently disconnected from the archive systems. She opened her eyes to find herself still holding Thea's hand. The alien woman looked different, her glow softer, more natural, but her eyes still held their galaxy-like depth. Did it work? Zara asked, her voice hoarse. See for yourself, Richard said, bringing up external views on the archive's displays. The ocean had returned to its natural state, but now it seemed more alive somehow, shimmering with subtle bioluminescence. Schools of fish swam by, their scales glinting with traces of organic technology that had merged harmlessly with their biology. The architects? Thea asked, standing on shaky legs. Reverting, all across the system, Richard confirmed. The resistance ships are helping them adjust. Seems like a lot of them are pretty shocked to find themselves organic again. And you? Zara asked Thea. Your abilities. Thea raised her hand, and a small sphere of energy formed above her palm, smaller than before, but still there. Changed, she said, but not gone. Like everything else, finding a natural balance. So what happens now? Richard asked, already typing out messages to various world leaders. Now, Thea said, looking at Zara with a smile, we help both our peoples learn from this. The Luminar remember who they were, humanity gains new understanding of its potential, and we find a way forward together. Together, Zara repeated, squeezing Thea's hand. I like the sound of that. As they began their ascent to the surface, where a new chapter in human and Luminar history awaited, Zara thought about the night she had found Thea in her lab. She had been searching the stars for signs of intelligent life, never imagining that what she would find instead was a way to help save two civilizations, and in the process, discover something deeper than either of them had expected. The ocean around them sparkled with new life, a testament to the power of letting evolution take its natural course. Above, the sun rose on a changed Earth, where the lines between organic and artificial, alien and human, had begun to blur in beautiful and unexpected ways. It wasn't perfect, but then again, that had been the architect's mistake all along. True perfection, they had learned, lay not in forced uniformity but in the endless, wonderful diversity of life itself.